Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and this week I want to talk to you guys about your backswing and specifically about what happens from your takeaway position up to the top of the swing. I've gotten lots of questions about this specifically, so hopefully after watching this video it'll give you some clarification on things. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to see more golf related content. So the main question has to do with what your arms and wrists do after the takeaway. So what I'll be doing first is demonstrating or explaining some key positions to look for, and then I'll be giving you a drill or a few drills that will help you feel things correctly. Now before we get into this, it's important to understand that the backswing is a culmination of many small things, starting from how you're sitting up to the ball, how you're gripping the club, which can also affect how you maneuver certain body parts. Now there is no one way to do the backswing, but I want to share what should happen generally speaking. So starting from the side view, assuming that you have a good takeaway position, the first thing to consider is the direction that your hands are moving. So in the golf swing, from the takeaway, the hands will always continue to move around the body and never straight up at any point. And as the hands move around the body, the wrists will hinge in a way to where the club face remains square, which I think is where a lot of people struggle and misunderstand things. Now, assuming that you have gripped the club correctly, by the time the lead arm gets to parallel with the ground, typically you want the palm of your right hand to be facing more so away from you, while the lead wrist is flat. So positioning your wrist this way ensures that as you bring the club up from the takeaway position, you've kept the club face square. If someone uses their wrist incorrectly to where they flex the lead wrist too much, then that would typically close the club face, and you guys would probably see a lot more of the club face at this point exposed to the camera. And reversely, if you extend the lead wrist too much, that would open up the face, and from your guys' view, you wouldn't be able to see any part of the club face whatsoever. Another thing to look for is that the shaft of the club will run through the bottom of the trail bicep. So if you can hit this position, then most likely the shaft of the club isn't too steep at this point or too flat. In order for you to control how steep or flat the shaft is, you'll have to pay attention to how your forearms are rotating in the backswing. So let me explain. Okay, so I want to quickly explain how your forearms, or how the rotation of your forearms can affect how you position the shaft in the backswing. From this takeaway position, a very common mistake that I see is that people will rotate their forearms too much, and that causes the shaft of the club to flatten out. So you can see I'm rotating my forearms in a way to where my lead forearm rolls over top of my trail forearm. Okay, and you can see how that flattens out the shaft. And reversely, I see the opposite mistake to where people would rotate the forearms where the trail forearm would roll over top of the lead forearm. So let's see how that gets the shaft working the other way. I gave you guys a reference point of having the shaft of the club run through very closely to the bicep, or the bottom of the trail bicep. So having that reference point is really helpful in knowing how much your forearm should be rotating or shouldn't be rotating. Okay, so if you can visually see that your shaft of the club is running through the bicep or close to the bicep of the trail arm, then you'll know that your forearms have rotated the correct amount. So now that you have some reference points on how to hinge the wrist correctly and position the shaft in the right spot, here are two drills that will help you feel the correct transition from the takeaway into the backswing. So for the first drill, I've got a club here and I've added an extension to the end of the club. So if you don't have an extension, you can just use you can just grip down on your club if you'd like. Just have something that gives you some sort of extension behind where you're holding it. Okay, so I've also placed an alignment stick down, so this is going to represent the target line. Okay, so when you're setting up, you're just going to place your club head on that target line, just because that's where you're aiming the club face. Okay, so now from here, when you do your takeaway and you do your backswing, so we talked about how you hinge your wrist in a way to the palm of your right hand is facing more so away from you, and your lead wrist is fairly flat. Okay, so if you can get into that position, assuming that your grip is correct, the club face is most likely square. Okay, so we also talked about the second reference point of the shaft running very close to the bicep or the bottom of the trail bicep. So in order for you to know that you're in the right spot, this extension will point very closely at this target line. Okay, so if you get the shaft running too vertically, or your forearms are rotating to where the right forearm is over top of the left, then you'll see that extension kind of points inside of the target line. And reversely, if you're rotating the forearms too much the other way, okay, the left forearm over top of the right forearm, then this extension will point in front of your target line. Okay, so if you take this club back and are able to get the extension pointed fairly close or at that target line, then you've probably rotated your forearms the correct amount. So the second drill is a 3-step drill. Now this is also going to help you get your hands and your arms in the correct spot in your backswing. So the way to do this is you'll grab a club, and in your setup position, the first step would be to hinge this club straight up like this. Okay, so it'll be fairly close to parallel with the ground. It doesn't have to be perfectly parallel, but just enough, just before parallel, let's say. Okay, and then from here, what you'll do is you'll bend your wrist. You'll just move the shaft directly to the side. Okay, so when you move the club directly to the side, you're going to look at your wrists and look for that reference that we were talking about before, where the lead wrist is flat, the palm of the right wrist is facing away from you. Okay, and then from here, all you're going to do is you're going to turn your body from here. Okay, and that should bring the shaft of the club fairly close to the trail bicep, or the bottom of the trail bicep. Okay, so again, the process should be 1, bend the wrist to the side, the shaft moves directly to the side, and then from there you just turn the body, and then that should also give you a feeling of the right structure here. Okay, so give that drill a try as well. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching. So I hope after watching this video you have a better understanding of what your wrists and arms do after the takeaway. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and be sure to follow me on my Instagram at Jonathan K. Moss. But other than that, I will see you guys on the next video.